Welcome back. We are on chapter 13 of So Be It by Sarah Weeks, and this chapter is called Blue. The bus to Liberty took a total of 2.5 hours, which meant I would get there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I sat very still in my seat the whole time, as though moving around might cause the fear inside me to spark and ignite. I imagined a huge hand pressing down on my anxiety, keeping it inside like the springy clown head of a jack-in-the-box. Dee Dee didn't seem to mind my being quiet. She was busy knitting a long scarf for her nephew, who lived up in Albany where, she told me, winters are so cold thoughts freeze solid in your brain before you even have time to think them. We made only one stop between New York City and Liberty, Monticello, where I would change buses for the last time. I was hungry, so I found a stand selling hot pretzels and lemonade, waited in line, and ordered 2 pretzels and a small drink. When I went to pay, I discovered that the little side pocket of my knapsack was empty. My money was gone. I found a phone and tried Bernie once more. "Please," I whispered, "please be there." But the call did not go through. I felt panicky and sick to my stomach again. Bernie and Mama and Georgia all gone, and now my luck had deserted me too. Why hadn't I listened to Bernie when she had said to wait until I was older? There was nothing to do but to get back on the bus and hope that somehow something would happen between here and Liberty to change things. I gathered what wits I had left and chose a new mother, Nancy. She was carrying a thick book with a bookmark stuck in about halfway through, and she wore glasses on a chain around her neck. She didn't say much as we got on the bus together, but she had a batch of homemade chocolate chip cookies with her that she shared with me once we sat down. I ate one, but my stomach was too queasy to handle more. What would I do if I reached Liberty and still couldn't get through to Bernie? It seemed as though my luck had disappeared right out from under me when I needed it most. I thought about asking Nancy for money, but somehow I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted Bernie. I wanted to be myself again, lucky and happy and home. 20 minutes later, the driver announced, "Liberty! This stop is Liberty!" My hands were shaking and my heart pounded in my throat as I stepped off the bus. As I pulled my little suitcase out of the baggage compartment and set it down on the sidewalk, it began to rain. The driver hitched up his pants and without looking back climbed on board. The door swung closed and he drove off, turning the corner and disappearing from sight. The Liberty bus stop was no more than a bent metal signpost sticking out of a cracked square of rough sidewalk. There was no building or shelter. Within a minute, everyone else who had gotten off the bus was gone, picked up by smiling people who had been standing there waiting for them. As I stood alone on the main street of Liberty, New York, the wind blew right through me like I wasn't even there. Faded American flags hung from the street lamps along with torn bits of tinsel garland left over from old Christmas decorations. There was a grimy payphone bolted to the wall of a grocery store with boarded-up windows. I called Bernadette. I wasn't hopeful, but I didn't know what else to do. "Collect call from Heidi," I said softly. And this time the call went through. "Heidi! Oh, thank God, Heidi!" Bernie started crying. "Where are you? Are you okay? I've been scared out of my wits," she sobbed. "Oh, Heidi, Heidi!" I knew I should tell her that I was fine and that I had made it to Liberty in one piece, but the moment I heard her voice, I fell apart. The knot that had begun to form in my stomach way back in Cheyenne when the lines had first gone down and had turned knuckle white hard after I'd discovered my money had been stolen, began to uncurl, and as it loosened, everything I'd been holding back rushed to the surface. I stood there with my little suitcase clamped between my legs, bawling into the phone. I came completely unglued. No words, just sobs, and on the other end, Bernadette was crying and at the same time trying to soothe me with her sounds. "Baby, baby, shh." I clutched the phone, weeping inconsolably. Heidi, Bernadette said when at last we'd both managed to calm down a little. Has somebody hurt you? Are you hurt, baby? No, Bernie, nobody hurt me, but more tears. Well, tell me what's the matter, Heidi, Bernadette said. Tell me what's happened. I sniffed and coughed and sniffed again. Nothing's happened. I'm here, Bernie. I'm in Liberty. But it's not how I thought it would be. It's all different. Different how? She asked. Like something's ending instead of beginning, I said. What do you mean? She asked. On the bus, I felt like I was going somewhere, but now that I'm here, it feels like I'm nowhere. Nobody even knows I'm here. Well, that's not true, Heidi. I know you're there, Bernie said. Thank God I know where you are again. And I'm looking at the exact spot on the map where you're standing right now. Liberty. Why, I can practically see you. In fact, I'm waving at you. Don't you see me? I'm the worried one in the pink housecoat who hasn't slept in 2 nights. I laughed a little. I couldn't help myself. It was so good to have her back. That's my girl, Bernie said. You have no idea how frantic I've been about you, baby. But without a phone, I couldn't even call the police. I don't want to tell you the horrible things I imagined. Oh, God, Heidi, if anybody has hurt you, I'll never forgive myself. Nobody hurt me, Bernie, but somebody stole all my money. I don't have the cab fare anymore. Oh, we'll fix that. It's not important, she said. Don't you worry, baby. I can get money to you somehow. I heard Mama in the background calling for Bernie. She sounded upset, more than just rimply. What's wrong with Mama? I asked. Oh, she's been having a hard time of it, poor thing, Bernie said. What kind of time? I asked, suddenly on edge. Mama's okay, isn't she? Yes, baby, but her headaches have been really bad, Bernie said. Mama was yelling now. Dad! Dad! I'm sorry, Bernadette said. I don't know what to do. I should go to her before she hurts herself. She needs me, Heidi. I need you too, I whispered. But Mama was yelling louder by then, and I don't think Bernie heard what I said. Call me back in 10 minutes, she said. I'll try to calm down. We'll talk about the money and figure something out, she told me. I've got to go now. I'm sorry. What if I can't reach you again? I said anxiously. But she was already gone. I hung up the phone and wiped my nose on the rolled-up sleeve of my red sweater. It no longer smelled of Bernie and home. I wanted to stand there and wait the 10 minutes before calling her back, but what had begun as a light drizzle was fast becoming a rainstorm. My jeans were soaked through already, sticking to my skin, and my hair was dripping wet. It was much colder here than it had been in Reno. I looked around but didn't see the taxi place anywhere, and there was nobody out on the street to ask. The town seemed deserted, empty. There was a flash of lightning and a loud thunderclap. I shivered and pulled my hands up inside my sleeves. Seeing a little magazine store with a light on across the street, I picked up my suitcase and hurried across to it. The man behind the counter was reading a paper. He looked up when I came in, pushed his glasses up onto his bald head, and waited. Can you tell me where the ABC cab is? I asked. 2 doors down, he grunted, nodding his head just hard enough to knock his glasses down onto his nose. I went back outside. Another flash of lightning split the sky, followed by a boom of thunder so loud it rattled the windows behind me. Rain was coming down hard and fast at an angle, and I had to jump over several large puddles to get to the tiny little storefront 2 doors down with a faded cardboard sign in the window I hadn't noticed before. ABC cab. How much to Hilltop home? I said, shutting the door behind me and wiping the water off my face with my wet sleeve. Hilltop? The man behind the counter said, giving me a slow, long look. I thought that place was closed down. It's not, I said. If you say so. It's quite a ways from here, though. Cost you 15. I knew that already, of course, but I was stalling for time. I was supposed to call Bernie back in a few minutes. Maybe if I called her from here, she'd be able to talk the man into driving me up to Hilltop for free somehow. I looked around for a phone, and that was when I noticed the jelly bean jar on the counter, filled with ancient candy, faded and crackled. The sign taped to the side of the jar said, Guess how many? Win the beans plus a free ride. Can I hold the jar? I asked the man. He jerked his head toward it as a way of saying, okay. Feeling lucky? He asked. Was I? When I'd played the slots in Reno and bought the lottery ticket with Georgia, I hadn't felt lucky. Luck didn't feel like anything. It was just there, like air. Then, when the phone lines had gone down and I couldn't reach Bernie and my money had been stolen, I felt like my luck had deserted me, left. I could feel its absence, like when you lose a tooth and there's an empty space there and you can't help touching with your tongue because it feels so strange. The man watched me as I picked up the jar and turned it slowly all the way around. All the colors of the rainbow, just like Mama's shoebox full of crayons. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. Suddenly I was home, sitting in the kitchen, having school with Bernie. Books and papers lay on the table in front of us. Blue, shouted Mama happily from the other room. You go, Picasso, Bernie called out to her. Then she turned to me and smiled. You go, Picasso. 1,527, I said. When I opened my eyes, the man was staring at me. That your guess? He asked. I nodded, and he opened the cash register drawer, pulled a little piece of cardboard out from under the money tray. His jaw dropped. He looked at it carefully as though he couldn't believe his own eyes, and then he handed it across the counter to me. The number I'd guessed was written there in small black handwriting. Oh, be a son of a... How in blazes did you do that? I smiled. Turns out my luck hadn't deserted me after all. I stood there with that big jar of jelly beans in my arms, thinking just because you can't feel something doesn't mean it's not there. Can you take me to Hilltop? I asked. The man shook his head and clucked his tongue. Like I said, I thought the place was closed down, but hey, it's up to you where you want to go. You won the ride, fair and square. Ha, fair, you get it? My shift's done anyway. I'll take you up myself. The cab, an old dented station wagon, its back bumper tied on with rope, was parked in the lot across the street near where the bus had let me off. I got in the back with my suitcase, backpack, and the jar of jelly beans. I was supposed to call Bernie back, but it was still raining hard, and I decided it'd be better to get up to Hilltop first and to call her from there. Somebody expecting you up there, are they? The man asked as he started up the engine and set the wipers on high speed. 'Cause this free ride ain't a round trip, just so's you know. I hope they're waiting with a big towel to drive you off. He chuckled, looking at me in the rearview mirror. I looked out the window and caught sight of a young girl standing in the rain, her tangled wet hair framing a narrow, serious face. And for a split second I wondered who she was and what she was doing out there all alone. And then our mouths fell open at the same time as I realized I was looking at myself reflected in the window glass. She was me, Heidi It. Well, there's our jar of jelly beans that you should try and guess. See if you're the closest to winning the guessing the number of jelly beans in there. Afraid you won't get a free taxi ride, but it would still be nice to know who has the best luck in guessing the number of jelly beans.